Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, or science fiction genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of 12 Monkeys. So this was a very interesting episode where basically we find out, Cole is going back to 1975. Well, him and Ramsey, because Ramsey decides to tag along too. So you go back to 1975 to track down that primary that we found about last episode. His name is Kyle Slade, and it turns out, which it took me by surprise. I mean, in regards, you saw a little bit of it, but I didn't realize it was to this level. I thought it was like, oh, he killed some people. It's like he's a bona fide serial killer. Like he was in the military, but he kind of got discharged because he was just kind of like he butchered a lot of people back then too, and when he was in the military, as well as when he came back, like apparently, like over the course of like a year or so, I think it was like to 74 to 75, he killed 12 people. I mean, granted, we ended up finding out there was a little bit of rationale to it. It's not just that he was crazy, but in itself, that was very interesting because he is the most violent primary we've ever come across so far. Because granted, we haven't come across that many. We've only come across Tommy and Jennifer. Yes, they are a little crazy, but they are they're not violent, they're docile. I mean, obviously with Jennifer case, you'd be like, oh, is she releasing the virus? It's like, well, Jennifer out of anybody is a little more screwed up, not just because all the voices in her head, being a primary, it's also because of just her family situation with her mom, her dad. It wasn't a healthy environment to grow up as a kid, so it's kind of understandable she'd be a little unstable and a little bit more malleable to people whose wills being like, oh, this is what you should do, Jennifer, this is your purpose, people kind of whispering in her ear like that. But this was our first time actually seeing like kind of an even more unstable primary. But he did kind of reveal the fact is all the people he were killing, all his victims, with the exception of the 12th one, were all primaries. So it's kind of like, okay, it makes sense why you did it now, because it's like he's killing them to make sure that the messengers aren't able to, messengers / the 12 monkeys aren't able to kill them with a paradox. Granted, like, I don't know why he went as far as he did, like slicing off limbs and cutting up the bodies like that. To me, I interpret it as maybe he's doing that because it's like, okay, if the body's sliced up in pieces, it's harder to activate granted, they need to be alive. So it's like, all Cole did was, granted, obviously it's skipping ahead, but Cole ended up shooting him. And so that was all he did. So it's like, obviously, you don't need to slice up the body to prevent that. Because that's the thing about Kyle. It seems like it's not just being a primary. It does seem like he is legitimately messed up in the head. Because he did get some sick joy out of it, maybe. Because he legitimately thought it was his mission. The reason why he came after that lady, the 12th victim, ended up being because he needed to get Cole's attention. He knew Cole would come back in time and try and stop him. And basically he was under the impression, he was like, okay, basically we kill the witnesses because he thought he was going to lead them to the witness. He's like, oh, I have the witness, but it ended up being a messenger. But he had it in his mind that like, okay, we kill him, we go back to the future, myself included, because I don't belong in this time. But then when Ramsey showed up, he's like, no, this doesn't make sense. You're not supposed to be here, which is kind of like the whole premise of this, because Ramsey's not supposed to be there. He's supposed to be dead. Everything's changed. Nothing is the way it's supposed to be. So I guess it kind of ruined his perfect little plan. But it's like, because he had it dead set in his mind that it's like, oh, this is the messenger. This is the witness, but it's just a messenger. He's like, oh, no. Obviously, he's going to come after me because, like, in his mind, he held himself in some high regard, like he was something special. It's like, dude, you're one of many primaries. But he distinguished himself like, oh, I'm important. You can't kill me. I am the Immortal, because that's what they were calling him as a serial killer. And I guess, like I said, in some way that psychosis kind of took over. It's like, in some levels, he was more rational about what he was doing. Killing the primaries so that other people couldn't get him. But like I said, with the whole, like, the way Cole handled the situation, is kind of like, okay, I don't really know why you would dismember the bodies then. It's like, if it just takes you killing them. Because I was thinking, like, I was like under the impression, like, okay, if the body's still intact, then maybe even if they're dead, they still can be paradoxed. I don't know. I guess you still have to be alive to be paradoxed, but it's just like, I don't know. Well, I guess because it's like, this is the bone from your dead body in regards to like your living body. So that's I guess in that shape or form, that holds the paradox as well. So I don't know. It was just something that I just kind of thought was interesting. But he had it in his mind as like, you can't kill me. Like, we're supposed to work together. But he saw the way Cole was. He's like, you're not worthy. Because Cole was so... He apologizes for it to Ramsey too. He's like, because he apologizes for being so forward with everything, and like he was so bloodthirsty. In a shape or form, he kind of turned back and more into the kind of the older Cole, because he's like, oh, here's this mission in front of me. It's like, I have an opportunity to kill the witness. I have to go for it. I have to take this opportunity, and it kind of backfired on, because Ramsey's telling him to kind of, go with a plan. It's like, you're always going into these situations head first, and that's going to end up getting you killed as well as all of us killed. So I did like the fact is nearing the end of the episode when that kind of conversation came up and he was about to say, I love, he's like, whoa, stop. You're not supposed to say that type of thing. He's like, what? He's like, don't even say that. I know what you're about to say. He's like, no, I was about to say I love whiskey. No, you're about to admit your undying love for me, brother. It's like, don't do that. It's just like, no, he's like, he's like, you've got, you know what happens? Like, you're a new father, and you know what happens to new parents? They get a little emotional. He's like, no, I'm not being emotional. You're just being an asshole. I love that relationship between those two. It's like, even with their ups and downs, they still come together. I mean, it's like, even after everything they've been through, like him working with the 12 monkeys, even after that, him and Ramsey and Cole have kept that relationship. I mean, because they've been brothers, like, as we've seen with the current timeline, like, they met when they were, like, little kids in orphanage, so they've spent, like, at the very least, like, 80% of their lives together, so they've always had each other's back, so it's, like, not that easy to turn on each other. But, with the way things were supposed to be, with the way time, with everyone's cycle, it did seem like Cole did at one point turn on Ramsey because of what he did, but it's just because of everything Cole's gone through, everything changed. And there's some shape or form you can thank Cassie for it, I guess. I mean, that's how I chalk it up to. I chalk up his change greatly to Cassie, but it's like maybe his experiences in general that led to it. But obviously another big part of this episode was the witness himself, because we're under the impression it's like, okay, Aaron, because I was wondering about it. I was like, is Aaron actually the witness? It turns out it's not. It's the other theory that it's like, oh, the witness disguised itself to look like Aaron because it wanted to get to Cassie. Because it's like, out of anybody, it felt like, if we disguise ourselves as Aaron, she'll be a lot easier to convince her to join our side. Granted, it was like, oh, I guess I chose the wrong face, and it disguised itself as Cole, because it's like, oh, this is the face that you like the most. So in that regard, I guessing I understand. Because a little bit of a thing, like I was thinking during this episode, because basically there was the lady that Cole and Ramsey had saved, even though they weren't supposed to save her. That lady, her son, I was under the impression that, like, because we didn't really see the messenger. Obviously, he had that, what I can only assume was like skin that Kyle had like stitched together and put on his face like a mask. I was under the impression, like, I was thinking like, okay, it looks a little far away, so it's hard to tell whether that's a guy or a child. I was thinking like, oh, that lady, she's a mom. I was thinking her son is actually the witness, isn't it? That's actually Aaron when he was a little kid or something like that. I don't know. I feel like with her last name, they would have brought that up. They're like, oh yeah, that's Aaron's parents or something, like his mom or something like that. In that regard, but that ended up not being the case. And then I started thinking like, obviously now I start thinking like, what if Ramsey's kid is actually his son? What if his son is actually the witness? But it's like, I don't know. Because basically fake Aaron was basically like, oh, they used their special powers to, help me. I thought I was going to die in that fire, and the only thing that stayed on my mind is you. And like his rationale was basically like, death is a sad thing. Time is a bad thing, because it's basically like, how many people have we come across where it's been like they were taken away from life, way too soon. It's like people died too soon. It's like, we need to go to the Red Force. The Red Force is a good thing because there, time doesn't exist. Time is destroyed, so meaning death no longer exists. And Cassie was actually a little sucked up into it. She even admits it to Jennifer. Because I did like the fact that Jennifer's like, I know this is a little ironic coming from me, but don't you think all that, like, that whole witness situation you were kind of going a little, like, kind of sleepwalking with, don't you think that might have all been inside your head? I did like the fact that she did, at least she was kind enough to point out the irony behind it before she said it. But, Cassie was kind of like, it is, like that on some level, she did find it beautiful, the thought of like, okay, there not being any death. But then Jennifer argues it's like, but death is actually not a good thing, but it helps us be human, because it makes us live harder. It makes us love harder. Fight for the things that we love, because this life we have is very finite. It doesn't, it doesn't continuously exist. Like, because the whole point is to make time disappear, so that basically life and death happen like you're constantly stuck in a moment of life and death happening all at once. That's the whole 12 Monkeys plan. But by the end of the episode, we ended up seeing Cassie, like, seeing the witness all over, like, see him kind of popping in and out. So either he had implanted himself in her head or something, because basically at the end of it, we see her eyes going black like his, and it's just like, it makes you wonder, like, what exactly is the witness? Like, who, like, I feel like with the whole setup, it's got to be someone that we know. In the beginning, I was thinking, like, maybe it could be Cole could be the witness. Now then it was like, oh, it's Aaron, but it's like, nope, it's not Aaron. It's definitely not Cole, because it had to disguise itself to look like Cole to try and convince Cassie, so it can't be them. So it's like, current theory in my brain is maybe it's Ramsey's son. But it's like, what did he do exactly to Cassie to get her in that position? Like, did he, like, when he touched her, did he implant himself in her brain? Because she was kind of like sleepwalking when Jennifer found her. She was at, like, the lobby of the hotel, so it was kind of like, whoa, like, that was kind of interesting. And something Jennifer had brought up in this episode, thinking back to it, I don't remember the exact phrasing she used, but it was kind of basically like that ghost, because she asked Cassie, does Cassie believe in ghosts? And this is when Cassie was thinking, like, she saw Aaron and that Aaron was the witness or whatever. Or at the very least, Aaron was working with them or whatever in that regards. But it was just like, basically saying ghosts are essentially memories of the past or whatever. And you see her touch a hole in the wall, which connects to something that happens later in the episode. So it's like, all ghosts are like the remnants, kind of the echoes of the past, that they're always there. Every once in a while you might be able to hear them, and especially as a primary, she hears ghosts. So, and something interesting that came up in this episode, a bit of a discovery, is the fact is that Ramsey's son knows what he did. Like, I guess at some point he sat his son down and explained it to him. He's like, you let a lot of people die. He's like, I know you love me, but it's more important. This is all more important than just, me. That's kind of why Ramsey decided to help Cole out, because, his son kind of put things in perspective for him. It's like, his son probably will never, he also knows that his son will never forgive him if he continued, like, letting people die. I mean, granted, it's kind of already happened, but he's like, for one, he's going to have Cole's back because that's his brother. So, but it does make you wonder, like, how will Ramsey handle everything? Like, it's like your son is dead set on believing, like, he's fine with, like, not existing because he knows it's going to, like, lead to other people being saved. So he's like, it seems like he's very mature for his age, because it's kind of like, he's like, I understand what you did and I don't understand why you did it, but it's like, there are a lot of people out there, their lives matter. Don't treat me different just because I'm your son. What about all those other people? Because there are plenty of fathers, mothers, sons, and daughters. There are lots of families that died because of the virus that he helped push forward. So, also, side note, we have, with the way things are, Jennifer ended up leaving Cassie, because basically she's like, your fight is in the future, because Cassie is losing a little bit of hope. It's like, she doesn't know she had any fight left in her, but we have Jennifer kind of staying present day, and Cassie possibly going back to the future. I saw very few glimpses of, like, the next episode. I try not to look too much into it. It looks very interesting. I'm not going to say anything because I didn't get the full context of the preview. Like, I saw maybe like 5 seconds of it before I turned away because I didn't want to spoil myself on it. But it looks like some very interesting things are going to go down next episode. So I can't wait to see where everything goes. But that's really all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.